Normally get a CIS rebate, but claim the self-employment grants? Well, I might have some bad news for you. Watch on. As a business accountant, my team and I spend all day long helping business owners on their journey. One of the areas we do a lot of work in is the construction industry in terms of the contractors and the people that work in there. And quite a common scenario with construction workers under the CIS scheme, the construction industry scheme, is that you get a rebate every year, a tax repayment. And the reason that occurs, and I know we've done other videos on this, is because generally the government take too much money off you at source. So your contractor will normally deduct 20% tax if you're registered, and as a result that's normally too much. And there's another video on this, but in brief, the reason it's normally too much is because you're allowed to earn, at the time of recording, £12,500 a year without paying any tax, and obviously you're getting deducted tax on all of your earnings. However, there is national insurance involved with that, so it sort of weighs itself out. But generally, most construction workers end up with some sort of repayment, varying in the scale of this. And eventually, as you start to earn at a certain point, you end up not getting a repayment anymore because the national insurance outweighs the amount of tax, or you might be paying 40% tax and they're only taking 20 off you, or something like that. But for a lot of people, especially those watching this video, I'm sure you will get a repayment. Now, interesting, these self-employment grants that were possible to get under the COVID rules are taxable. They're subject to tax and national insurance because they're replacing your earnings. Now, of course, none of those have any tax deductions on them. So what I wanted to show you briefly in this video is just something to be aware of. If you look at that rebate every year and think, I'm going on holiday with it, you might be surprised to find out that you're not getting one, or that it's a lot smaller than it would normally be. It's not going to be the case in all cases, but I'm just going to run you through a couple of quick examples just so you can see and get yourself prepared. So I think the best place to start is let's have a little bit of a recap about how this works. So in this example, let's just say in your bank, you were getting around £370 a week, which is about £19,200 a year. Now the way that works in reality is actually you're getting paid 24 grand, but your contractor is deducting 20% off you. So he's taking this off you, and that's what it comes back to. So this is an example using that. If you work 52 weeks of the year, it's unlikely you probably had some holiday, but just to give you an example of the type of money we're talking about. So normally, and I don't want to bore you too much with figures, so I'm just going to show you the highlights because I think this is important. 24 grand in at the top, you get taxed at 20%, so that's £2,300, but you also pay national insurance around here. So you can see there's another like £1,400 national insurance, which means you would have owed £3,763 and some pence, but you've already been deducted £4,800. So you'd actually get a grand rebate. Now, normally, of course, you've got expenses to come off this and everything else, which is why it's quite normal in the construction industry to have this thing where you have, 1,500 quid, £2,000 rebate. It really depends on your earnings. Bizarrely, the lower this is, the lower your national insurance can be, and sometimes the rebate's going to be higher. So it's very, and we've done videos on this, but it's very difficult to compare your repayment versus somebody else. But you can see just on basic maths, in this scenario, you would get a repayment. So, and I think people come to expect it. It's very normal in the construction industry. People think, I'll get my rebate and I'll go on holiday or I'll do this. But this is why I wanted to show you this year. So let's say you took the COVID grants. That's the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme grants that are available. At the time of recording this video, there's 3 available. And for a lot of construction workers, from what I've seen, they've taken them. However, construction wasn't massively shut down. So my fear for a lot of you is that if you've taken these don't have any tax on. So I want to show you what happens if you took them. So normally, let's say there's 3. I mean, they vary massively in what you would have got. But let's say the 3 combined was £10,000 just for the purposes of this exercise. It makes easy maths. Now that £10,000 would cause you another £2,000 tax bill. So of the 10 grand you got, if you carried on earning the similar sort of money you normally do, you'd have ended up with, of that 10 grand, 2 grand of it was already taxed. So just to show you how that plays out, you can see up here, there's your 24 grand. So let's say actually by the time it come around to the 5th of April, you'd earned the same as it happened. You probably just didn't have any holiday, for example, because you were actually off for a few weeks, and then when you got back you started earning, but you had the grants to cover you and all this kind of stuff. So, but let's just say you had this. In this example, you can see you then owe £4,300 of tax. Now, you've already got 4,800, so that's fine. You'd still get a very small rebate, but of course your national insurance has gone up as well. So you can see in this example, what would happen is you'd end up needing to pay this figure. You'd only have 4,800. you'd actually owe £1,800. That's a big difference. Going from £1,000 rebate to owing nearly £2,000 is a big deal. So it's something I just want you to be aware of. If you're relying on these rebates to either pay your accountant, I know some accountants do this thing where they'll deduct your rebate from it, be very wary of that. You might have to pay them this year. Or if you're going to use it for holidays or paying off debt or doing whatever you're going to do, just be wary. If you have had these grants, it's highly likely that it's going to impact your rebate, possibly to a point where you don't actually get one. So that's it for this video. If you've liked it and you know anybody who needs to know this information, please do share it, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.